Hello and welcome to Step by Step. This is number 4, and this is a discussion about how to do derivatives with tabular data. So notice that we are given a function defined and we're asked to find the derivative. And in that derivative, notice that we have a table of values for derivatives and functions. So let's just go ahead and tackle number 1, or part A. So notice that H is defined as a quotient and then just a little x added right there. And so it says find h prime of 1. So the first thing I'm going to do is find h prime of x. And in order to do that, I need to do the quotient rule. So let me go over here and talk a little bit about the quotient rule. When I first introduced this to kids, I think I call it h of x equals, we'll just do f of x over g of x. If I were doing this with kids, we call the top function the function that's up top, which is the high function, and this is the low function. So when I take the derivative, we have a little song that we sing, and it goes low d high, that's the low function d high, minus high d low over low squared. So I had a kid put a tune to it, and he'd go, low D high minus high D low over low low, like the Cool Whip song. I don't know, he came up with it. That was Reggie. So I'll say it again. Low D high minus high D low over low low, and the D means derivative of that function. So when I work this problem out, I'm going to work it thinking like that. So I'm going to do low, which is G, D high, and so what we're going to do is just indicate that we want the derivative there by putting that prime there, minus high D low, so that means take the derivative of the bottom over the bottom squared. And the two things you need to remember about this particular derivative is that you always want to start down low, and you always want to subtract and square the bottom. So low D high minus, really big deal there, that's minus, minus high D low over low squared. Now remember, that's just the derivative of this quotient, and then we have to take the derivative of x, which is simply 1. In order to find h prime at 1, take it down just a little bit, grab my pen hand and pull down a little bit. There we go. In order to find h prime of 1, I'm now just going to use my table values. G of 1, I'll go pull that off the table. F prime at 1. When I do this with kids, I actually show them this because I want them to see that I'm writing out everything, and I expect them to write out everything. Plus 1. And please don't forget that plus 1. I'm really fixing to forget it, I know. So now we're just going to use the value g of 1, and g of 1 is 5. F prime at 1, here's f prime at 1 is negative 3. F at 1 is 4. G prime of 1 is 2. And g of 1, which we've already found, is 5, and 5 squared is 25. And all of that is going to be plus 1. And so if I go down just a little bit more, I'll give me a little room here to work, that's negative 15 minus 8 over 25 plus 1, which is negative 23 over 25 plus 25 over 25. Which is, that's my magic wand, I always have to do that for myself, which is 2 over 25. So h prime of 1 is 2 over 25. And so the big thing about using a chart like we started with, it's all about to make sure that you do the symbolic part right, and that you just pull the right numbers from the table. Okay? Final answer 2 over 25. Okay, so let's go to part B. In part B, let's see, we're given a product here, and my little rule for a product, and I'm just going to write it in terms of R because that's just easier, and I'm going to ignore the -2. Let me call it H just for a minute, because when I introduce this, I'm sure I call it H. If H is F times G, then the derivative is 1D2 plus 2D1, where this is 1 and that is 2. And so it's first derivative of the second plus second derivative of the first. And guys, that just makes it a little easier for kids to remember. So in this one, we're just going to have a -2 with that. So, in its equation, we're going to find the whole equation of the tangent line. So before we just had to find the derivative, and now we've got to find the equation of the tangent line. So let's see, let's find r prime of x first, and that's going to be -2 times 1d2 plus 2d1. And notice I just left that -2 out front. It's just easier to do that and just do the product of the two functions. To find the equation of the tangent line, you need two things. You need the point and the slope, so I'm working on the slope right now. So if I need r prime at 2, I would do f of 2, g prime at 2, plus g of 2, f prime at 2. And let's just go pull in from the chart. F of 2 is -3. G prime of 2 is 6. G of 2 is 4. And F prime at 2 is -1. So if we multiply all this together, we'll get the slope at 2. And so let's see, we get negative, I'll leave that there. We get -18 minus 4. And that's going to be -22. And -2 times -22 is 44. Okay? All right, so we've got the first part. We've got the slope at 2. So we need to find r of 2, which is the point we need. And so we're actually going to plug that into here. So that's -2 times f of 2 times g of 2. And -2, f of 2 is -3. G of 2 is 4. And so that, I think, is 24, if I'm not mistaken. So now we have the slope. There's your slope, r prime at 2. And we have our point, 224. So we're going to write our equation, y minus y equals slope times x minus x. And guys, stop here. If you're in a free response situation, you do not want to go any further than this, because if they do any kind of algebraic error, they will miss the point after this. So just stop. Once you get it into point slope, just stop. Okay? All right, we've got another part, part C. Here we go. Now we have a strain situation, and what I would do first off is I would split this up and make this an easier problem. So the first thing I would do is I would rewrite this as f of x over f of x minus 1 over f of x. And that just leaves me 1 over 1 over f of x. And we got to do the slope of the normal line, so don't forget that's a little different. So when we find this derivative, we'll have to do something with it. But when I see this, the first thing I think of, and here's my thinking cloud, is that I have taught them that the derivative of 1 over x is -1 over x squared. And so if we have something like this, then they should be thinking chain rule. So they should be kind of thinking d dx of 1 over u, which is -1 over u squared du dx. And that's just the chain part. It's still going to be the same pattern of -1 over whatever that is squared, but then you're also going to have to take its derivative. So keep in mind, when I do this as quickly as I do, I've already talked about pattern and derivatives earlier, and so they know how to do that. So when I take the derivative of this, the derivative of 1 is 0. I'm going to write that for emphasis so you can see that I actually tried to do it. And then the derivative of this is normally negative, but because it is negative, it's going to be positive 1 over the function squared times the derivative of the function. And so if we do v prime at 3, now right now we're finding the slope of the tangent line, and we'll have to adjust that for the slope of the normal. So I'm going to now drop the 0, 1 over f of 3 squared times f prime of 3. And f of 3 is pi. Oh my goodness. So 1 over pi squared times f prime of 3 is 8. So the derivative is 8 over pi squared, and that is the slope of the tangent line at 3. So the slope of the normal line and the tangent line are perpendicular to each other, and so the slope of the normal line is going to be the negative reciprocal of the slope of the tangent line. And so it is negative pi squared over 8. Negative pi squared over 8. And y'all, that's a weird answer. It's okay. They need to start getting used to weird answers because we're going to see that in calculus. And last but not least, we have this fun little twist, and that they give you a relationship and they tell you some things, and you have this chart and you've got to find f prime of 4. Notice that f prime of 4 in the chart is an unknown value, so you're going to actually be finding that, and that's why they said it was unknown. So it's kind of like a go backwards thing. So here we go. Let's do w prime at x. And these two things are being multiplied together, so we have to use the product rule. And so that's 1d2 plus 2d1. And I just put that 1 there for emphasis to let you see that I did actually do the product. And then I'm going to fill in, we want to know something at 4. So I'm going to do w prime at 4. And the x is 4 apparently, because we can tell that from right there and tell that from right there. So we're going to put a 4 there. F prime at 4 plus f at 4 times 1. Okay? So now let's plug in everything we know. We know that is 9. We know we're looking for f prime of 4, so we've got to leave that there. And f at 4, we can go to the chart and see that that's negative 5. Okay, if you add 5, you get 14. Divide by 4, you get f prime of 4. And we're probably going to want to reduce that just a little bit to 7 over 2. So this was kind of a combo. Excuse me, I'm not writing well there. Let's do that right. There we go. I'm kind of doing a combo in that we're using the product rule, but we're not solving for this. We're solving for something different. Now I'll throw them off sometimes. I'll just start plugging in numbers wherever instead of plugging it in where it belongs. And so f prime of 4 is 7/2. So that's a fun problem, and it really does go through all your rules and lets you solve for things and talks about what normal and tangent and what the relationship is. So this is a fun problem. This would be a great review problem to do a pass the pen with. So I'm a big pass the pen girl. That's where one person does one part and then somebody else comes up and does the other part. So for example, if I were starting this problem off, I would get one person to do this line, the next person would fill it in, and then the next person would go to the chart. And if you have somebody who's not very confident, you might want to let them do the filling in part. That's fine, it doesn't matter. Like you might get somebody who knows the rule to do that one, somebody who maybe is not so confident, but you want to get them into the board and do something really positive and say, oh, I did it right. And then get somebody to pull off the chart and maybe even somebody to reduce and put it together. So you want to get a person for each step that you actually do to show them the steps. Well, I hope this has been helpful, and have fun with derivatives. If you need anything, please email me or give me a call. Thanks. Bye-bye.